Hey, thanks for tuning in to Twang and Bang. I feel like I could just say this rifle print screws like that all day long, and the street price is under $1,900. And then end the video right there, because that alone is enough for me to say that this is one of the best precision semi-automatic rifles at its price. But I'm not gonna do that. I wanna show you all of the features that Savage Arms built into this rifle, making it what I think is the best precision gas gun for my purposes anywhere near its price. And that's why the MSR 10 long range is what's coming up next on Twang and Bang. The MSR and MSR 10 stands for Modern Savage Rifle, which is actually very descriptive because the MSR 10 is an entirely new design. It's based on existing AR-10s, but it departs from conventional designs in a few key areas. This long-range variant departs the most from standard AR-10s in the total package of features it offers. Others might have its 5R rifling and a barrel guaranteed to shoot sub-MOA with factory match ammo, or a handguard that attaches directly to the upper receiver instead of the barrel nut, or a side charging handle, or click adjustable gas block, or a short bolt carrier and lengthened gas system. The MSR 10 long range, however, is the only factory produced rifle that includes all of these features, and it manages to do it at a very Savage Arms price. The long range is available in a 20-inch 308 or a 22-inch 6.5 Creedmoor, as you see here. The heavy profile 4140 steel barrel is fluted between the receiver and the gas block, then unfluted to its 5/8 by 24 threaded muzzle. The 5R rifling is given a 1 1/8-inch twist with the barrel then melanited for hardness and finish. The stylized receivers may look like billet but are actually forged 7075 T6 aluminum. This arguably gives a more strengthened billet while likely helping Savage keep the price down. They fall somewhere between a standard AR-15 receiver set and standard AR-10 in size. This helps to reduce the weight and improve maneuverability of what is still a heavy gun. At 10 pounds for the 6.5 Creedmoor and 9.8 pounds for the 308, the MSR-10 long range is no lightweight, but some of that heft can be attributed to the Magpul Gen 3 PRS stock and what is effectively a 19-inch handguard. That's when you include the extension of the upper receiver where the M-LOK handguard mounts, a nice feature that isolates the barrel and barrel nut from the effects of pressure on the handguard itself. The handguard protects what Savage calls a rifle plus gas length system ending in a click adjustable gas block. This extra gas system length increases dwell time, softening the gas's push on the bolt carrier and helping to smooth cycling. The safety selector is mil-spec and non-ambidextrous. It controls the nickel boron coated AR Blaze 2-stage trigger made by Blackhawk. The Blackhawk grip might look like the marketing department had too much of a say in the design, but despite that, it actually feels really good. The texture is not as grippy as I'd like, but it fills my hand nicely and has a great angle for getting a good trigger pull. The MSR-10 has both a conventional charging handle and a side charging handle. The side charger is non-reciprocating to prevent injury or interference with obstacles during firing. The rear charging handle is proprietary in length, meaning that the MSR-10 will accept neither AR-15 nor AR-10 size aftermarket charging handles. The bolt carrier is almost as short as that from an AR-15. However, its diameter is the same as a standard AR-10 bolt carrier to work with the MSR-10's standard AR-10 receiver extension. Nickel boron coats the carrier, though you'll see it darken from stark silver to what you see here in just a few hundred rounds. The firing pin retention pin is semi-captured, so you don't lose it when removing the thin profile firing pin. This reveals a firing pin buffer spring used to reduce the chance of slam fires. Be mindful of this spring when disassembling and reassembling because it likes to go exploring without notice. The bolt is E9310 steel, individually high pressure tested before being matched to the barrel for headspace. Its melanite finish is then marked with the last 4 digits of the rifle serial number to keep them paired during and after final assembly. The bolt face shows dual ejectors, a welcome feature becoming more common in the AR world. The thin firing pin means the bolt has a small firing pin hole. This then means that the MSR-10 bolt has more support behind a cartridge's primer than a standard AR-10 bolt, a feature that will likely be appreciated most by reloaders. For this evaluation, I'll be using the S7 bipod supplied by Optics Planet and the HDMR2 supplied by Bushnell. The side charging handle is designed not to reciprocate, and by that I mean it is of course non-reciprocating, but it has a catch at the end of its range of motion to keep it still. Some side charging handles like this will reciprocate a little bit from friction with the bolt, but this won't. I did have a little bit of a clearance issue between the side charging handle and the latches for my ADM mount. It's not that bad because these are rounded and I've been wearing gloves the whole time I've been shooting this for testing. By the time I'm taking these gloves off in the summer though, I'm gonna get a mount. It doesn't need to be quick detach on a rifle like this that doesn't have latches like this. you do need to be aware that it is close right here. And if you're putting on a mount that has big, square, nasty bolts or something like that, or nuts, I mean, it could rip your knuckles apart. Part of the reason is this receiver is smaller than your standard AR-10 or SR-25. Other designs that have a side charging handle have a little bit more clearance, but the MSR-10 long range does not. It's tight here. You got to be aware of that. This is working well enough for me now, but I am going to change this mount. The MSR-10 long range is not the first large frame AR to have both a side charging handle and a conventional charging handle, but I'm really glad that they included both in this design. A lot of people think that the purpose of the rear charging handle being here is for certain bolt manipulations that are easier with the standard charging handle. That's certainly true. And of course, in a stressful environment, you might just revert to your muscle memory and grab for a rear charging handle. That's also true. But there's another very important reason for having a rear charging handle in addition to a side charging handle on one receiver. That reason is clearing a stuck case. If you end up with a stuck case, you can pull on the side charging handle until you're blue in the face and it's not going to go anywhere. The conventional way of clearing a stuck case is to mortar the gun. You collapse the buttstock. In this case, you don't have to do that. This is a solid buttstock. You grab the charging handle, you get down on the ground or a solid table, and you basically slam the gun down as you pull on the charging handle. That extra momentum helps get that case unstuck, and you might have to do it a couple of times. If you do the same procedure on just a side charging handle, that mortaring, you have less purchase, especially on this particular side charger versus the rear charger that's on this receiver. But also, some of your force, maybe even a lot of your force, is going into torquing the gun to the side. So you're getting less of that mortaring effect, helping you to get that case unstuck from the chamber if you're trying to do that with a side charging handle versus doing it with a rear charging handle. The Blaze 2-stage trigger in this rifle is okay. It's got a little bit of creakiness to the pre-travel. It's got a nice wall, and then it's breaking at an average of 3 pounds, 8 ounces for me. What I really don't like about this trigger is the extremely short reset. That would be fine if this were, say, a 3-gun AR-15 where I need a short reset to be able to engage multiple targets at close ranges very, very quickly. But this creates a big problem for shooting a precision rifle with kind of like a loosey-goosey style. Even though I load the bipod, I was getting quite a high number of unintentional bump fires where I'd pull the trigger, the gun would cycle as it recoils, it would bounce off my shoulder, allowing it to reset, and then I would be pulling the trigger a second time because it bounced into my trigger finger before I could pull the trigger finger all the way out. And that's really one of the things I didn't like, is I had to shoot the trigger like this. I had to pull the trigger and extend my trigger finger quickly to get it out of the way so I wouldn't get a bump fire. That's even with loading the bipod. The only way I could for sure keep from getting bump fires was to really hold this extremely tightly, and that's no way to shoot a precision rig. I don't know what the experience of other shooters is with this trigger, but for me, I prefer a trigger with a much longer reset in a precision rig for sure. The way Savage ties the handguard into the upper receiver to keep the barrel nut isolated from any kind of pressure you put on the handguard is pretty cool. It's not just free floating the barrel, it's free floating the barrel nut. They're not the only ones to do that. The M-LOK feature of the handguard, M-LOK handguards are pretty much all the same. They're just different diameters, but when you've got M-LOK on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sides out of the 8 and then Picatinny across the top. How many different ways can you do that? You can't. So that's pretty much like any other handguard. But what I really like is that they went with a very long handguard. Past the gas block, they had to put a port in there so you could get to the adjustment for the gas block. And the reason they did that was so you could put your bipod way out there like I have it. When you're shooting off of a bench, any kind of movement that you put in your shoulder, your hand, ends up putting angular deviation on the gun. And that angular deviation translates to a bigger group. The farther you have your bipod away from your hand, away from your shoulder, the less of an angular impact, the same amount of movement of your hand, of your trigger finger, of your shoulder is going to have. So the less of an impact on your group size your little form errors will have. You're not going to always want to have your bipod all the way at the end, because if you're panning for targets that are really far apart, you have to move a whole lot more back here to cover the same angular ground out at the targets. So you might have a second Picatinny section put halfway down the handguard or something like that, so you can put the bipod here for those stages in competition where you need to do a whole lot of panning and you don't want to be constantly picking up the gun, which is sometimes what you have to do anyway. But for shooting groups on paper, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want their bipod as far away from their hand as possible, as far away from their shoulder as possible. And I'm really glad that in designing this precision rifle, Savage chose to spec it with a really long handguard. Throughout testing, I took advantage of the adjustable gas block to keep the MSR 10 long range as soft shooting as possible. Sometimes it meant opening it up a few more clicks to get reliable cycling like I did for the Gorilla ammo. Round count never affected my ability to adjust the gas as it can with some gas blocks. You can see how easy the adjuster turns even after shooting about 200 rounds at this point. I was always able to keep this rifle running with common sense adjustments to the gas block on the fly. I would spend a little more time fine-tuning the gas for any load that I'd be shooting for long strings, but that simply wasn't necessary to get shells ejecting and rounds loading off the bench. The Hornady ELD map shown at the beginning of the video was definitely the ammo this rifle printed best, but every factory load I tried did at least okay. American Eagle is introducing a new 120 grain open tip match load for 2018, and it printed a hair over 1 MOA. The original 140 grain American Eagle open tip match also printed similar size groups. Respectable, though far from the best this rifle can do. Gold Medal Burger dropped 0.2 of an MOA off those groups, as I've come to expect. This rifle didn't like the new for 2018 Gold Medal 140 grain Sierra Match King as much at 100 yards, but the real test would be to see what they print at farther distance given their bullets' different designs and BCs. That will have to wait for a different video, however. I've gotten used to Federal Fusion performing like match ammo and other rifles I've tested, but for some reason this rifle couldn't get groups under an MOA with it. That group is still respectable for a soft point hunting bullet regardless, but I've gotten much better groups with Fusion out of other rifles. Gorilla Ammunition's 142 grain Sierra Match King shot well at just under 0.8 MOA. The popular 130 grain load from Prime Ammunition edged even closer to 3/4 MOA, which is especially nice considering its relatively low price and high availability. You don't need all of that precision to ring steel targets for fun, though. I'm back to shooting the more budget-friendly American Eagle 140 grain to print a decent group on the E-type at 550 yards, despite gusting winds and a strong mirage. Clarity through the Bushnell HDMR2 is much better than what you see in the video, and that's important to keep in mind as I show you how I use a grid reticle like the Horus H59 reticle you see here. To set this demo up, I spun a few random clicks into the turrets to demonstrate how fast I can adjust my point of aim based upon seeing where my bullet hit downrange. My hold should be 2.1 mils, so that's what I'm going to start with, even though I know I should miss the target. See, I just made a correction based upon my original hold was that, and I moved, I hit like, if you look where the 2 crosshair is, the 2 mil, that's where I hit right over the top there. I was aiming there, so I just bring that part of the reticle down and make my hit right on top of the other one. I've re-zeroed the turrets to show you how the grid reticle also makes fast work of shooting targets at different ranges. After zeroing at 100 yards, I never touch the turrets. I just find my elevation in the reticle and aim there. At 200 yards, my elevation is 0.5 mils. This is a chip shot regardless, and my biggest challenge is waiting for the target to stop swinging so I don't damage it with my next hit. At 300 yards, my elevation is 1.2 mils. 3 shots with the American Eagle 140 grain still printed nicely on the front of that plate, which is why I have no problems using it for practice on the range like this. At 400 yards, my elevation is 2.1 mils as previously stated. This time though, the scope is properly zeroed, so the rounds hit their mark. At 550 yards, I was originally thinking of hitting the E-type again, but with all the impacts now on the paint, I realized you wouldn't be able to see a hit. Over to one of the swingers I go, and with 1 round left, I center on the plate with 3.7 mils.
Oh, right off right edge. Just enough of a wind blowing back there that I missed that last shot. But the elevation was right. That was an important thing to see. And I got that elevation without having to touch any dials. That's the beauty of Christmas tree reticle like this H59 reticle from Horus. The HDMR2 is actually part of this evaluation too, because Bushnell sent it specifically for me to pair with the MSR 10 long range, and it is a very good pairing. I've been shooting the HDMR for 6 years now, and it has a lot of strengths and a few weaknesses. One of the weaknesses of the original HDMR is that you lose clarity when you zoom past 17, 18 power. And so though you can use more power for certain types of shooting, I rarely go above 15 or 16 power, even when I'm shooting really far with the HDMR. With the HDMR2, I've got great clarity all the way through all zoom. So that's a big improvement over the original HDMR. I also like this throw lever a lot. It makes changing zoom very fast, very easy. However, I wish this were a folding throw lever like Bushnell has on some less expensive scopes. Instead, it's either on or off, and to take it off, you actually have to use a tool, and then you got to put it somewhere and make sure you don't lose it or the screws. I wish it would just flip on down when I wasn't using it, because when I have it in certain positions, this is the part that sticks out farthest from the gun. When I put this in a case, I really worry about the ocular getting banged around, getting some torque, some leverage on it when it's just sitting in a case. So I always have to put it straight up and down for its safety's sake. I like the lower profile turrets versus the original HDMR, but I wish they would have kept the top turret locking. The elevation turret locks on the HDMR. The windage turret locks on both the HDMR and the HDMR2. I do not understand the logic in not using the same low profile locking turret that they have for windage on elevation. You know, when you're using a Christmas tree reticle like the H59, you're generally not going to be turning the dials. You'll turn them to 0 at 100, but then you're using the reticle for your holds. So not having this lock makes this riskier for accidentally grabbing it and turning it, which will wipe out all of your holes in one go without any kind of advantage that I can see. So I really think that this was not a really good design choice over the original HDMR, especially when the windage turret is just as low profile, yet it locks down so that it won't accidentally spin. I got to meet one of the lead designers at SHOT Show last year, and he told me Savage Arms gave him the freedom to design his dream rifle. In the end, I think he designed my dream rifle. Its features read like a competition shooter's wish list. Though putting them all into one gun, semi-automatic, makes the MSR 10 long range Savage Arms' most expensive rifle at a street price of about $1,900 or less, which is about $1,500 less than many popular precision gas guns. At that price, you still get a click adjustable gas block. You still get a truly free floated handguard. You get a bolt that's headspace matched to the barrel. You get side and rear charging.
You even get a Magpul Gen 3 PRS buttstock, a feature left off many much more expensive guns. I fully appreciate that many viewers can't afford even what some might consider to be a budget-oriented precision rifle. But that price means that very high-end features can be put in the hands of a lot more shooters. The features mean that you can have the entire grocery list in one gun, a combination you can't find in any other factory-produced rifle at any price. I would like to see them offer a trigger with longer reset, but other than that, I can't see how Savage could make this better at the price you have to pay to get it. If you want to learn more about the MSR10 long range, be sure to click the link in the video description below. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. You can see the links right here. And be sure to click right here to subscribe so you can catch my next videos on bows, guns, and other cool stuff. I really appreciate you watching Twang and Bang, and I hope to see you next time.